My name is Carol Rogers. I grew up in Bush, Louisiana, which is a small town just about 60 miles north of New Orleans. And I work as a certified public accountant in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was first hired at the certified public accountants firm. I was hired into the tax division. And so typically at those types of firms, either they focus on tax or they focus on accounting. So I was hired at a firm that mainly focused on tax. So we were all about the tax returns, and we did all kinds of different tax returns. And it's from individual to partnership to S Corp, C Corp, gift, estate, trust, nonprofits, you name it, we did them, right? So a typical day is you go in, as always, check email, do that part first, and then you open up the client's information, assuming that they've dropped it off for you, and then you just jump in. You just start preparing their tax return using some specific tax software. So there is definitely some software that you'll need to learn to get used to, but you'll do the same things over and over. So that becomes pretty easy pretty quickly. And then you'll prepare that tax return. You will typically talk to that client because they do need to know, right, do they owe taxes, answer any questions that you might have for them. And then discuss how they want to file that tax return, right? If it's going to be electronic, if they prefer to mail it in themselves, that sort of thing. As you might suspect, depending on the time of the year, really dictates how many hours you might work during that week. If it's any time from January to April 15th, and you do a lot of personal tax returns especially, right, you're putting in a lot of hours. Lots and lots of hours. Everybody that prepares taxes has a day of the year that they celebrate, which is October 15th. Not April 15th, because that's only the individual, and only if those tax returns are not extended. But the Internal Revenue Service dictates that all tax returns for all entities have to be completed by October 15th. So that's a big party day because you're done with taxes pretty much for the year on October 15th, knowing that they start again January 1st. So my story is that I grew up saying I would never do two careers. So I had two things I said I would never do. I would never do accounting because that's what my father did, and I would never teach because that's what my mother did. And now what do? I teach accounting. And so I grew up with, my dad was big into numbers. So we learned basic accounting, he didn't call it that, from the very start. So my undergrad degree from LSU, go Tigers, is in math and computer science. And the interesting thing there is that I had this wonderful degree. And when I went and talked to an advisor about, okay, what do I do now that I have this degree? They said the only thing you can do with math is teach. And I said, no, I'll never teach. Can't do that. So every job I got after college, I didn't really care what I got. I just needed a job. It didn't matter where I started in the job. I always ended up in the accounting department because I was good with numbers, because I liked numbers. So I was in Albuquerque, working for a nonprofit. And again, I didn't start in the accounting department, but ended up there and finally said, okay, fine, I will do accounting, right? But to move up in that department, I needed a degree. So to get the degree, because I already had an undergrad degree, I went to University of New Mexico and got my master's in accounting. And from there, I went ahead and got my CPA license, my Certified Public Accountant license. So one of the important skills that I took from high school, which I'm not even sure class is still being offered, is a straight typing, right? A straight typing course. And that was like basically a required course. And so that was actually a life skill that at the time I didn't appreciate it, but now I definitely do. One of the other things that I take from high school was the instructor that I had for my math classes. So I took, because I knew I was going to be college bound, I took a lot of the upper level AP math classes. And there was an instructor there that she was just crazy. I mean, she was fun, right? And she was really a presence, and she made math fun. And I still reflect back on the way that she taught and how she had everybody's attention when she was explaining the Pythagorean theorem and things that now would just make me roll my eyes. And I really try to emulate her. Be sure to ask questions, right? As you go through life, be sure to continue to ask questions. Never feel ashamed or, well, I'll figure it out later. That was what I did, and I typically never figured it out later. So be sure to ask questions. Be sure to try new things. It wasn't until much later in life did I realize that, hey, I really like teaching, right? It wasn't until much later on I went through worked a whole bunch of different jobs, and I enjoyed them as I went through them, but I never felt that passion, that desire, that, oh my gosh, I can't wait.